back to your SDET channel. So today is our day 4 of learning, and today we are continuing our Python series. So if you have been watching from the beginning, you already know that in the last video we have covered comments, keywords, data types, operators. We saw some concepts of concatenations and formatting outputs, and and we also discussed why Python is called a dynamically typed language. So in this video we'll move on one step ahead and make our programs more interactive and intelligent. So let us start with our first topic: how to take input from the user. Now suppose you want your Python program to talk to the user, to ask the user for some information like their name, age, or a number. For that, in Python, we have a direct function which help us to take input from the user. That function is called as input function, and its syntax is simply input, and inside the bracket, whatever you want the user to type, you can mention it here. For example, this. So whenever you write input in your code, Python will pause the program and wait for the user to type something in the console and then press enter. So you can also show a message inside the input function so that the user knows what to type. For example, if you write input inside the inverted commas as enter first number, Python will show this message enter first number on the console, and then the user will type a value and press enter, and that value which the user will type will be taken as an input by the program. Well, now let us understand this more clearly with an example. So today is day 2, so we'll create another directory or folder as day 2. Minimize this, and here we'll create one Python file and we'll name it as user input. Fine. Let me close all this previous. Cool. So let us start with a simple example. Let's say we are taking a user's first name and the last name as an input. So the code will look like this: input, enter your first name, and another input function for second name, last name. Okay, cool. Now here in the first line, input enter your first name means Python will display the message enter your first name in the console when you run this. Then the user will type something, their first name, and when they press enter, the second line, that is enter your last name, will print on the console, and user will have to enter their last name. So here again the user will type something, right, for the second for their last name, and then after entering their name they will press enter. So in this example we are asking the user for two pieces of information. One is first name and another is last name. Right now we are not storing them in any variable, we are just calling input two times. So you can understand how the input function works. In a real program we would usually store these values in a variable to use them later. So let us now run this and see. Well, now it is asking me to enter my first name. Well, I will enter my name, first name as Ankit, and I'll press enter. Now it is asking me to enter my last name. Okay, now when I'll press enter, it will come out, and that's it, right? Now we are not storing anything in, we are just taking the first name and the last name as an input from the user. Well, now let us now go to the another example where we actually store the inputs and then see what happens with their types. Example 2. So here in the first line, let's see, we are taking a variable num1, and here we want to take input from the user where they will enter the first number, and another variable as num2, again our input function, and inside this message, sorry, enter the second number. Fine. So here Python will show enter first number on the console. So whatever the user types, for example 1 or 10 or a fractional number, decimal number like 3.5, so those value will be taken as an input and stored inside the variable num1. Okay, then similarly in the second line Python will show enter second number, and the value typed by the user will be stored inside the variable num2. Okay, now here is an important point. So in this example, whatever value we type for both the inputs will be considered as a, what do you think, what it will be considered as? Let us first run this and see. Okay, now I'm running this. Under the first number, I'm giving the first number as 1. Okay, second number is 2, right? So what do you think, if you have entered this integer value here, so Python is taking these values as an integer? No, it is considering it as an string. Why? Because Python stores it as a inverted commas, inside inverted commas, 2. Okay, so to confirm this, what we are going to do is we can check the type of these variables using the type function. Let's say print type of num1 we want to check, and another one is print type of num2 variable. Well, let us run this. Now enter the first number 1, enter the second number 2. See, so for the num1 variable we have entered 1, and 1 is considered as string here. Similarly with 2, it is also considered as string. So when we run these lines, Python will show that both num1 and num2 are of type string, that is class str. So whatever values we provide at the runtime as input through the input function, we it is always it will always considered as strings by default. So even if you tomorrow you pass a decimal number here like 3.14, let's say I learn this again, I'm passing it as 3.14, another one is 2.5, it will still consider it as string. Okay, now a question comes here, if both num1 and num2 are strings, so can we perform an addition operation for num1 and num2? Just think about this for a second. You might expect that if you enter 1 and 2 and then add them, you should get 3. Okay, okay, let me try to explain this with another example. 3. Okay, so first of all I'll comment this out. Okay, so in our example 3, let's say we have the same variable num1. I'll copy this. Why to rewrite again and again? Okay, so same number, right? I mean same variable num1, enter the first number, num2, enter the second number from user input. Now I want to print num1 plus num2. So what do you think? What will be the output here? Better run it and see. 1, 2. You are expecting 1 plus 2 because we are using additional operator here, right? Let's see. I'll press enter here. Well, it is not printing 3. In fact, it is printing 1, 2, 12. Suppose at runtime, when the program asks for the first number, you entered 1, and when it asks for the second number, you entered 2. Now you might think the output should be 3, right? But the output will actually be 1, 2, 12. What is happening here? The reason is very clear. The reason is that num1 and num2 are strings. So here this plus operator is not doing a mathematical addition. Instead, it is behaving like a concatenation operator between the strings. Okay, so concatenation means joining two strings together. So if, let's say, this one string, this is another string, what should it print? It will print a output as a string by concatenating these two strings 1 and 2, that is 12. It will never do a mathematical addition operation. Okay, it will become 12, which is exactly what you see in this output. So to make Python actually add the numbers numerically, we need to convert the data types of num1 and num2 from string to integer first. This is where the type conversion concept we discussed in the previous video. So I guess we did it in the data types. Yes. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Now the question is how we are going to convert our string inputs into integers so that we can perform proper addition. So let us see two approaches. Let me comment this first. Okay, so in our approach one, the same example will take uh, two variables, num1 and num2, where for the first variable the user will enter the first number, the second variable the user will enter the second number. Now here we can do one thing. In the print statement, we already know, right? We have already seen this, that by default it will consider these values as a string. Now what we can do is we can type print int num1 plus int num2. Okay, here we are first taking a num1 and num2 as an usual usually how we take the variables and inputs. So in similar way we are taking this using the input function, and initially both num1 num2 are strings, but when we write int num1 and int num2, we are converting the stored string into num1 as an integer, okay, and num2 as an integer. Let us run this. Here first number I'll enter as 2, second number I'll enter as 2. So now when it comes to the third line, here after pressing enter it will give us output 3. Now this plus is performing a mathematical addition operator. Now it is not doing a concatenation between two strings, because we have already converted these strings into integer, right? So this is approach 1. In approach 2, so here instead of converting after we store the input, we are converting immediately at the time of input. How? Again the same example. Now we'll convert this while declaring only, we'll convert this as an integer, so that later we don't need to again convert it in the inside the print statement. Okay, print num1 plus num2. Now if you run this, 1 2, correct, right? Okay, well it is asking for 2 times because I have not made this comment. Yeah, 1 2, okay, 3. Now so here both the approaches are correct, right? So the only difference is in the first approach, you first store the string and then convert it later in the print statement. So in the second approach, you convert the value to the integer at the time of storing itself, right? And using, you use whichever style you find more readable. It is your choice. So this completes our discussion on how to take input from the user and how to handle its data types. Now let us move to a very important topic in program, which we call as control statement. Okay, let us come to the notes here. So what is a control statement? So control statements are used when you want to control the flow of your program. For example, there are certain situations where you want to run some lines again and again, or only when a particular condition is true. So for such cases, we use control statement. So they help us make decision and repeat actions in our code instead of writing everything manually. In Python, there are three types of control statements. First is conditional statements, where we have if else, and elif. Next is looping statements, where we have while and for. And at last, we have jumping statements, where we have break and continue. Okay. So in this video, we'll start with the first type, which is conditional statement. So these are used when you want to execute some code only if a certain condition is true, like checking age, then numbers, or any logical conditions. So let us begin with the first if statement. Okay, so here let's say we are declaring a variable age and storing a value 19. Okay, now we we have an if statement. Suppose if the age is greater than and is equal to 18. Okay, so this is nothing but this is a condition. This is a syntax how we use if statement in Python. Okay, so this condition checks whether age is greater than or equals to 18. Since age is 19 here, so the condition is true. 19 is always greater than 18. Okay, there are two conditions, either greater than or is equal to, right? But here 19 is greater than 18, so in the very first condition it is true. Now what happens when it is true? So if the condition is true, Python will execute the next line inside the if statement. Here I want to execute this line. Let's say you are eligible to vote. Okay, so usually it happens, right? So if a person's age is greater than 18 or is equal to 18, then only he or she is eligible to vote. Now if you run this, well, it says syntax are expected is okay. Okay, so the syntax is after you give the condition using the if statement, you have to use a semicolon here. There was a error in the syntax. Now run it. It says you are eligible to vote. Why? Because age is greater than 18, which is 19. 19 is always greater than 18, and if this condition is true, sorry, if this condition is true, it will print the statement inside if. Got it? Well, okay, I'll try to explain it again. Here we have a variable age with the value 19. Then we have an if statement. If age is equal to greater than or is equal to 19, sorry, 18, then this is a condition. If this condition is true, it will check whether the age is greater than or equal to 18. So since age is 19, we have declared it in the initial stage only, age is equal to 19, the condition is true. Because the condition is true, Python will execute the line inside the if statement. What is the line inside the if statement? Print you are eligible to vote. You are eligible to vote. So if age had been less than 18, let's say 17, then this print statement would not execute. See, nothing is getting executed, right? Okay. Now many times we want to do one thing, that is if the condition is true, and another thing is if the condition is false. For that we use the if else statement. Okay, let's say another another example. If else. Okay, now we are seeing if else statement, the very first example. So in in the very first if else example, we'll check whether a person is eligible to vote or not. We already saw one example, right? But here what we did, we use only one single condition, that is age should be greater than is equal to 18, then only it should print this. What if age is not greater than is equal to 18? We saw, right? We entered here 17 and nothing got executed, but we want to print something. Something should happen when the condition is false. So what we'll do is, let's say age is equal to 15. If age is greater than or is equal to 18, following with colon, I want to print you are eligible to vote. Okay, if the condition fails, then I want to print something else. For printing that something else, we'll use the word else following with a semicolon, and then print. If the condition fails, I want to print you are not eligible to vote. Okay, now let us run this. Here what should be the output? Age is 15. Condition is age should be greater than or is equal to 18, then only it should print this. If it is not greater than or is equal to 18, it will print this. So in our case, 15 is always less than or is always less than 18. That's why it will print the false statement, which is this: you are not eligible to vote. So what is happening here? So in this code, age is 15. The condition in the if statement is age is greater than is equal to 18. This checks if the age is at least 18. Since 15 is less than 18, the condition is false. Okay, and when the condition in the if uh, is false, the code inside the if block, which is this, will get skipped. Okay, and the code inside the else will get executed. So the output will be you are not eligible to vote. So if the let's say if we change the age to 20, then 20 is greater than 18, so it will print the true statement: you are eligible to vote. Okay, now let us see how to do the same check but using user input for age instead of hard coding it. Hard coding means you are already declaring the variable, right? Age is equal to 20. Now I want to take this age as an user input, so I want the user to enter the age. Now for that, at first let me make this as comment. Sample 2. Okay, here we are taking age as an input. Now again, the same variable age will take as int. I mean, we want to convert the value, right? So if you are, we saw here we saw, right, if you simply give enter the first number or enter the age, it will consider always the entered value as string. So better to convert it using this method. So the same thing I'm doing here. At first enter in input, enter your age. Okay, okay. Now I'll give the condition. If age is greater than is equal to 18, the same thing here. Okay, okay. Now what we are doing here is we are using the input function to ask the user to enter their age. The user will type a number and press enter. Now the input returns a string, so we wrapped it inside the int, okay, to convert it into an integer and store it in the variable age. Now we check if age is greater than or equal to 18. If the condition is true, then the message you are eligible to vote is printed. Otherwise, the else statement will be printed, which is you are not eligible to vote. So this is a dynamic program where different outputs will be shown depending on what age the user inputs. So in an if-else statement, only if the condition declared inside the if statement is true, it will execute the statement inside the if block. If the condition is false, I mean if the if condition is false, it will execute or it will print the else block statement. Okay, let us run this. So enter your age. So let's say my age is 17. Now after pressing enter, it will say you are not eligible to vote because the condition fails here. 17 is neither is equal to 18 nor greater than 18. It is always less than 18. So it is false, and once it is false, it will print the else block statement. Okay, again I will run it. This time I'll give the input as 31. Now I am eligible to vote because 31 is greater than 18. Got it? Okay, so now one more important point here is if an if statement always expects a boolean value as the final result of its condition. Okay, what I'm saying is an if statement always expects a boolean value as the final result of its condition, either true or false. So boolean means either true or false, right? So the condition you write after if is evaluated, and the Python decides based on that true or false value whether to run the if block or not. So let us see this clearly with a simple example. Let's say okay, so I'll write a simple code here. if true, the condition is true, okay, it should print this one. This is the statement under if block. Okay, next is else. Else it will print this. In this example, the condition is directly true. If true, since the condition is true, Python will execute the if statement, I mean if block, and print this is the statement under if block. The else block will be ignored, so the output will be that if statement message, this one. Let me run this. Before running, I'll comment this. Yeah, now if I run this, it will always print the if block statement because I have mentioned the condition as true. Now let's see the opposite. If I make this as false, it will print the else block statement, right? This is the statement under else block, correct? Got it? What is happening? Again, I'll say the condition here, the condition is directly false. Since it is false, Python will skip the if statement, if block statement, and execute the else block. So it will print this is the statement under else block. So this shows clearly that if checks, I mean if means that if this if if this if will checks a boolean value. Okay, now you might think, do we always have to write true or false? The answer is no. Usually we write expressions like this: age is greater than is 18, or let's say if we want to check some other conditions like whether a number is even or odd, at that time we'll give some another condition here, right? And those expressions are evaluated to either true or false internally. But sometimes even values like numbers can be used in conditions. Even values like numbers can be used in conditions, and Python treats them in a certain way. So let us see this with another example. So instead of false or true, I'll give as 1. What I'm saying, even values, okay, values like numbers can be used in conditions. Okay, like I am giving here as if 1. So we saw, right, in our earlier videos that in Python 1 is always equal to true and 0 is always equal to false. So what I said, if it is true, it will print if block statement. So in our condition, it will print this is the statement on the if block because 1 is always is equal to true. Okay, let us try. It is printing if this statement under if block. This is the statement under if block. Okay, got it? Now if I give here 0, that means 0 is always false in Python. It will print the else block statement. This is the statement under else block. Got it? Okay. So this is just to show that the if statement looks for a boolean like value. Okay, now Let us move to a very common real life example, which is checking if a number is even or odd. For that, I'll create another file, Python file, and name it as even odd program. Okay. Now checking if a number is even or odd. Okay. So first, what we need is we need a variable to store a number. Let's say I am checking this number whether it is even or odd. Now we'll use if statement, and inside if statement we will write some condition. So when do you think a number is even? Whenever whenever a number is divided by 2 and the remainder is 0, always is equal to 0, at that time we can say that number is even. And if it is not is equal to 0, we can say that number is odd. So what will be our condition here? That means 10 ampersand 2 is equal to 0. Okay. Now in our case we are storing this 10 inside the variable num. So what we'll do, we'll enter like this: if num ampersand 2 is equal to 0, at that time we want to print the statement. If it is true, it should print the number is true. Sorry, the number is even. Okay. Or else, if the condition is failing, at that time it will print the else block statement. Let's say the number is odd. Got it? Now let me try this. I'll run this. Okay. Here it is saying the number is even. What is the number here? Num is equal to 10. 10 is a even, we know this, right? Now I'll replace the number with a even with a odd number, and let's see what it prints. The number is odd, so our condition is correct here. Okay, here num is 10. The expression num ampersand 2, this only this much, will calculate the remainder when this, in the beginning we had 10, right? Num is equal to 10. So here this expression num percentage 2 will calculate the remainder when 10 is divided by 2. The percentage symbol here is the modulus operator. So we saw in our operators session, right? In our last video we saw this. This is a modulus operator. Okay, so and the remainder is 0. So the condition and num percent 2 is equal to 0 checks if the remainder is 0. If it is 0, the number is even. So the program prints it is an even number. I mean the number is even. If the remainder is not 0, it will go to the else and print the number is odd. Since 10 is even, the output will be the number is even. Okay. Now let us modify this program so that we do not hard code the value 10 by ourselves. Instead, instead we want the number to be taken from the user as an input. What we are going to do here is example 2. First I'll comment this. Now we want the user to enter the number, and then we'll check whether it is even or odd. So at first the same thing, but difference will be taking user input. Enter the number. Okay, also we will convert this to an integer because we are checking for the number, right? Fine. Now if the user enters any even number, any number, it will first divide it with 2 and check whether the remainder is 0 or not. If the remainder is 0, it will print the if block statement. If it is not, then it will print the else block statement. Okay. Now let us try this. Enter the number. For example, I want to check for the digit 4. The number is even because 4 divided by 2 is, and I mean the remainder will always come as 0, so it is true, right? And the number is even, therefore it is printing the if block statement, which is the number is even. Got it? Now let's say I want to enter the number as 7. The number is odd because whenever you divide 7 with 2, the remainder is never is equal to 0. Similarly, any number you can give. Let's say randomly I've given these many numbers. This is odd. Okay, fine. Now now let us try to see a shorter way to write an if else statement in a single line. Here we are using 1 2 3 4 lines, so we'll try to write in a single line. How we are going to do that? Example 3. Okay. If else with multiple statements in a single line. So here is the idea. So if you want to print any statement before the if else statement and keep them grouped, you can use curly braces to group multiple systems together on each side of the condition. How? Let's say I'm storing a value 10 inside the variable a, and I'll use these brackets and I'll write print hello, and then a comma, after that print Python. Okay, after this bracket the condition will start. If a is greater than or is equal to 10, now this is the true statement for this condition. After this condition we will give the false statement, that is else block. Print hi, comma, print another statement, that is Java. Okay, now here we are using print hello, print Python. So this condition is, I mean this will be your true block statement for this condition, and this one will be your false block statement. Now if you run this, hello Python, we are getting the true statement here. Why? Because the condition is true. A is equal to 10 here in our case, which is 10 is equal to 10, right? Now if you say 11, so 11 is greater than or is equal to 10, what should it print? It should print the true statement because 11 is greater than 10, right? Hello Python. Now let's say if I give a is equal to 9 and then print, what should print? It will print the false statement, which is inside the else block, because 9 is neither greater than 10 nor is equal to 10. Okay, so we saw here in this code, we have a variable a is equal to, let's say, 10. Okay, and then we have a conditional expressions. So on the left side of it, inside the curly brackets, we have two print statements, hello and Python. On the right side of the else, we have hi and Java, two statement. So the condition a is greater than or is equal to 10. So if it is true, then the group print hello Python will be printed, and that means it will first print hello and then print Python. And if the condition is false, it will then print the else group statements, which is hi in the first line and Java in the second line, right? So this shows you how to handle multiple statements with a single line if else style. Now in all these examples, we saw what to do when you have a single condition to check, right? You either use if or else or if else, depending on whether you also want to handle the false case or not. Okay, now you have now you know what happens is when you have multiple different conditions to check one after another, for that we will be using elif statement. So elif stands for else if. Okay, it allows you to check multiple conditions one by one. So the program will check the first condition, the first if condition, and if it is false, it will check the first elif conditions. If that is also false, it will check the next elif, and so on. And if none of them are true, it will finally go to the else block. Well, saying this is much easier than doing it practically, right? So let us try to understand this with the simple example. So here we saw if else. Now we are going to see elif statement. Okay, example 1. Now, okay, let's say okay, we'll try with a simple traffic program. What is traffic program? Let's say we have a variable called as signal is equal to, let's say, yellow. Okay, now our if statement starts with the condition inside it. So if signal is equal to red, print. What does red color means in a traffic signal? It means to stop, right? So we'll print stop. Okay, next elif. So this is the syntax. First one condition, then elif. If signal is equal to let's say green. So what does green mean? Green means go. Print go. Okay, now let's say we want to print another condition, then again we'll use elif. So after the first very condition we'll use if, and after that elif and so on, and at the last we'll use else. Okay, so let's say I want to print if signal, well, let it be this much only. I mean, if signal we have given yellow, okay, but we have declared initially the signal as yellow, so for this also we should have one elif condition. If signal is equal to let's say yellow, and yellow means get ready, right? Get ready to go. Fine. So we saw red, green and yellow, and apart from this, if there is any another other signal, then what it should print? It should print the else block statement, which is in our case invalid signal, because in traffic signal we have only these three colors, red, green and yellow. So let's say if user enter blue, so blue doesn't make any sense in traffic signal, so it will give the output inside the else block statement, which is invalid signal. Okay, now I'll run this. Okay, sorry, again I forgot to use this column name. Now it is saying ready to go, because in the initially we have declared the signal as yellow, and if it is yellow, if signal is yellow, it will print ready to go. Okay, so in this program we have a variable called signal with the value yellow. Now if the if condition will check if signal is equal to red, it will, since our value is yellow, so this condition is false, it will move to the next condition, elif condition, that is signal is equal to green, which is also false in our case, right? Then it will move to the next condition, which is elif, and here signal is equal to yellow, which matches, which is true, therefore it will print this one. Now let's try to give red. Okay, let's say I have given a red. Now which one it should print? It should print stop. Why? Because here signal is equal, this condition is true, signal is red. Now let's say yellow, green, then this will print the elif, this elif statement go, correct? Now let's say I have entered blue here. What should it print? It will first check whether the signal is equal to red. No, right? It will move to the next one, which is elif condition. It will check whether signal is equal to green. No, right? It will move to the next one, elif signal is equal to blue, yellow, which is not, right? Now it will come to the else block. It will print invalid signal, because none of the condition is matching with this variable, that is blue. Now if you run this, we'll get invalid signal, correct? Well, so this is how elif helps when there are multiple conditions to handle in a very clean way. Now let us take another practical example where we check a student's grade based on marks. So here we'll create another Python file. Let's say student grade check. program. Okay, here well, now here we are checking the grade of a student secured in an exam by giving marks as an input. What you are going to do here is we'll take the marks as an input from the user. Marks is equal to input, and marks is always either an integer or sometimes it's a float also. So but here in our example we'll take it as an integer. Okay, so enter the marks you obtained. Okay, and now we'll change its type as an integer. Okay, now we will use the elif statement here. How? Let's see. So usually if marks is, okay, I'll write it here. If marks is greater than or is equal to 80, we say this, that the grade is A. We consider this as a grade A, right? Let me take this on the next line. And then if marks is greater than let's say greater than or is equal to 60 and marks is less than is equal to 80. So in this condition we will consider this as grade B. Next is if marks is greater than is equal to 40 and marks is less than is equal to 60. For this condition we'll consider the grade as C. And the last one is if marks is less than is equal to 40, in this condition we will consider the grade as fail. There will be no grade, right? So the student will fail if they secure less than 40. Okay, and okay, so keeping this in mind, this condition, we'll add the program. We'll use a if statement in the beginning. If marks is greater than is equal to 80, print grade. If marks is greater than grade A, right? Next, elif marks is greater than 60, greater than is equal to 60 and marks is less than is equal to 80. What happens? It will consider it as grade B. Marks is greater than is equal to 60 and marks is less than is equal to 80. It will print, it should print grade B. Okay, now again another elif statement. If now the third one, if marks is greater than is equal to 40 and marks is less than is equal to 60, it should print grade C. Okay, So if marks is greater than is equal to 40 and marks is less than is equal to 60, it should print grade C. Okay, marks is greater than is equal to 40 and marks is less than is equal to 60, that time grade C. Next is if, again elif marks less than is equal to 40, which is this one, it should consider the student as fail. Okay, and at last, let's say user has entered invalid marks. Okay, in that case it should print the else block statement. Let's say please enter a valid mark. Please enter a valid marks. Okay, so let us try. At first I'm asking the user to take a input, right? If I run this, enter the marks you obtain. So let's say I have obtained the marks as 95. So what do you think? This 95 falls in under which condition? Greater than is equal to 80. Why? Because 95 is greater than 80. That's why it will print grade A, right? It is printing grade A. Perfect. Now let's say I want to check for exactly 80. What should then what it should happen? Grade A. Okay. Next, I want to check for for the marks between 60 and 80, so that it should print B. This AND is an operator, right? I showed you in the last video how to use this AND operator. So similarly, we are following that. We are using this operator. So Python is a very simple English language, as I said. So we will not use any extra symbol for this AND operator. Simply we'll write AND. Okay. So now we want to check by entering a number or marks between 60 and 80, so that it should print B. I'm going to enter 70, which is between 60 and 80. Now it should give me the grade B. Perfect. Now I want to check I want to print grade C for this third condition. Marks should be between 40 and 60. Let's say 50, right? What should it will print? It will print grade C. Perfect. And this one, for the fail condition, I will have to enter the number. I'll have to enter the marks less than 40, right? So I'll try with 25. In this case, the student is failed. Now I want to check for else block statement. So for checking this, I have to enter something different than these conditions. Let's say I am entering -1. Well, it is giving me fail. Why? Because it is less than is equal to 40. For making it more perfect, I'll do one thing. I'll give another condition here, and marks should be greater than or is equal to 0. Okay, perfect. Now again, if I give -1, it is telling me to enter valid marks. correct? Right. So here we saw, right? So this means uh, if, what to say, the idea of elif will remain the same in every statement, but the only things will change is the condition. What matters is the condition. Okay, getting it now? This was all about the conditional statements in Python. If, so we saw if else, and if else, and elif, right? Okay, so so this, we saw how to handle the single conditions, how to use else for the false case, and how to handle multiple conditions using elif. So these are very powerful, and it is a form the base for decision making in your programs. In the next video from this playlist, we'll continue with the looping statements, which is while and for, and jumping statement, which is break and continue. Okay, so those will help us repeat tasks and control loops more efficiently. So before ending this video, I want to give a small assignment for you guys. So try to solve this using the concepts you learned today. Avoid using tools like ChatGPT or any other helper. Try it on your at first by your own. If you face any issue or if you have any doubt, please ping me in the comment, or you can mail me at sdetnest@gmail.com. Okay, so these are the videos, I mean, sorry, these are the assignment for you guys. Okay, okay guys, so try to complete these questions before the next video. Keep revising the concepts, especially input, type conversion, and conditional statements, because they will be used again and again in our upcoming topics. So see you in our next video. Signing off, and thanks for watching.